On my birthday, my mom hugged me tighter than ever. But later I found the gift she bought with her name on it, not mine. I remember the way her arms wrapped around me that morning. It was unusually tight, almost desperate, as if she was trying to hold something in or hold something back. It was my 18th birthday. The air in the house smelled like vanilla cake mix and lavender candles, a scent I'd come to associate with every celebration, every fragile attempt at normal in our chaotic home. But that day, something was different. Her voice cracked when she wished me happy birthday. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I noticed, but I ignored it. I always did. Because that's how love worked in our house. You ignored the cracks, the bruises under the surface, and you smiled through the silence. I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment that always echoed more than it should. My father disappeared before I was born, not dead, just absent. My mother raised me on tips from her night shifts and promises she could never keep. But I didn't blame her. I used to believe she did the best she could. That her long hours, her sudden moods, the nights she forgot to come home weren't her fault. I told myself that love looked different in every family, and maybe this was just our version. But birthdays had always been different. She never missed them. No matter how poor we were, how tired she was, she'd always make sure there was a cake, some music, and a little gift with my name on it. I'd find it wrapped in newspaper or stuffed in a plastic bag, but it would be there, and that was enough. So that morning, when she brought out a little box wrapped in gold foil and tied with a red ribbon, I felt that same flicker of hope I always did. Like maybe, just maybe, this year would be different. Maybe she was changing. Maybe I mattered again. But when I untied the ribbon, I saw something that froze my breath. A necklace, delicate, expensive, with a gold charm that spelled out mom. Not daughter, not to my baby girl, not even my name, just mom. I turned the box over. A price tag still clung to the bottom, and above it, scribbled in small cursive, was a gift tag that read, "To the world's best mom, love always, your daughter." I wasn't the daughter. And it wasn't my gift. I didn't say anything right away. I smiled. I thanked her. I even put the necklace on and tried to ignore the way her hands trembled as she helped me clasp it. But something shifted in me that day, like the last brick of a crumbling wall finally fell. I spent the rest of the day pretending. She took me out for ice cream. We laughed. She told stories from when I was a toddler, ones I'd heard 100 times before. But every time she looked away, I stared at the necklace in the window reflection and wondered, who was it really for? And worse, what did she take from me to give it to someone else? That night, after she fell asleep on the couch, I crept into her room. I told myself it was just curiosity, just a small peek. But the truth is, I was searching for something I didn't want to find. And I found it. At the bottom of her wardrobe drawer, beneath an old red shawl she never wore anymore, was a stack of letters, unopened envelopes marked with lipstick kisses and signed, "From your daughter, Ria." Ria. The name cut through me like glass. Letter after letter, birthday cards, photos, notes scribbled on hospital letterhead, all addressed to mom. But not from me. From her. Ria's handwriting was neat, soft. Her words filled with affection. "Can't wait to see you again. I miss our coffee dates. You're my safe place." One of the letters even had a picture inside. A girl about my age, with almond eyes, a nervous smile, and a scar that ran just under her chin. She looked like me. No, she looked like a version of me that had been loved better. I sat there for an hour, the letters spread across the bed, the necklace still cold around my neck. And that's when the storm started inside me. Everything I had ever forgiven, the missed birthdays, the forgotten school events, the nights I cried alone while she drank in silence, came back, roaring like wildfire. Because now I knew I wasn't the only daughter. I wasn't even the first choice. I was the leftover. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there, curled up in the corner of her room, reading and rereading every word Ria had written. I kept trying to make sense of it. Had she adopted another girl? Was she hiding a secret family? Or was it something even worse, Had she given away a daughter and never told me? The letters weren't dated clearly, but I noticed something strange. The postmarks were recent. This wasn't a long-lost connection from her teenage years. Ria had been writing to her for years. The latest letter was just 3 weeks old. I kept flipping through them, looking for answers, until one envelope slid open and a small photograph fell into my lap. It was them. My mom and Ria. Smiling, hugging, and laughing, that deep, belly laugh I hadn't heard from my mother in years. They were sitting at a restaurant table, candles between them, a cake with "Happy Birthday Ria" written in icing. My mother had her arms wrapped around her, the same way she hugged me that morning, only it looked real in the photo. Full. Proud. My breath caught in my chest. She'd been celebrating her birthday. She bought her the gift. She spent that money, that affection, that energy on someone else. I left the letters exactly as I found them. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed to understand first. Over the next few days, I became someone I didn't recognize. I began listening to her phone calls from the hallway, memorizing the time she disappeared and came back with excuses about work or errands. I checked her purse. Once, I even followed her all the way to a quiet neighborhood 10 miles away, where I watched from across the street as she knocked on a door. And Ria opened it. They hugged again. That same tight hug. I felt hollow, watching them. Like I was watching a mother I never had give everything I ever needed to someone else. And then it hit me, the way her eyes always glazed over when I mentioned certain childhood memories. The way she sometimes called me baby instead of my name, like she was reaching for something generic. The way she had always felt distant, like she was present only out of duty, not affection. Because maybe I wasn't the only one she'd raised. And maybe I wasn't the one she chose. The days turned to weeks, and the more I learned, the more the bitterness grew. She had built a parallel life. She had a daughter who called her every day, who gave her handmade gifts, who knew her favorite song, her favorite food, her old stories, the stories I never got to hear. I was her shadow, her secret, the daughter she fed leftovers and half-truths. And worst of all, she never even thought I'd notice. That realization broke something in me. Because I hadn't just been forgotten. I had been replaced. I started to remember every moment she dismissed me. Every time she didn't show up for parent-teacher meetings. Every birthday where she promised something special but brought excuses instead. Every cold look, every passive sigh, every silent dinner. And now I knew why. She'd been saving her warmth for someone else. That night, I stood in front of the mirror with the mom necklace hanging from my neck and whispered to myself, "You are not invisible. You are not unwanted. You will not be erased." I didn't know what I would do yet. But I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just pain anymore. It was purpose. And I would make her feel it. The way I'd felt it for years. But colder. Quieter. Permanent. I didn't say anything for days. I smiled when I had to. Laughed when expected. Answered her questions with nods and mumbles. But inside, something was building, slow, careful, dangerous. She thought I didn't know. Thought she could keep living both lives, giving Ria the warmth and feeding me the leftovers. That she could keep hiding two worlds under the same roof. But I was done playing dumb. I began collecting proof. Quietly, carefully. Screenshots of her call logs when she left her phone unattended. Pictures of the letters. A voice recording. I placed my phone near the kitchen door and caught a conversation she had with someone over the phone. "She's doing fine," she said. Still distant. Still strange. But she's not suspicious. I made sure her birthday felt special. The word special rang in my ears like a mocking laugh. I copied everything, emails, receipts from her purse, even a small hand-drawn card with "Happy Mother's Day to the best mom in the world" scribbled in Ria's handwriting that she had tucked into her photo album. Tucked, not hidden. Like she wasn't even worried I'd find it. Maybe that's what hurt the most. that she never thought I was worth hiding this from. One Sunday, she left her laptop open. I don't know if it was a mistake or if she was getting careless. Either way, I found something that made my stomach turn. An email draft, never sent, addressed to Ria. Baby, I know you've been worried about her, but I promise I'm being careful. She's too fragile to understand the truth, and I can't risk her finding out that I chose to keep you and not her. That's a wound she might never recover from. I just need a little more time. After your graduation, we can make things official. That, that one sentence. I chose to keep you and not her. It broke me in a way nothing ever had. So it was true. I was the discarded one. She'd had both of us, at some point, and when the time came to choose, she picked her. And I was the one left behind, raised half-heartedly, loved with guilt, not grace. All this time, I'd been trying to prove I was enough. All this time, she knew I wasn't. That night, something inside me shifted. I stopped crying. I stopped hoping. I started planning. The betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore. It was strategic, clinical. She didn't just forget me. She designed a life that excluded me, piece by piece, and lied to my face every step of the way. The next morning, she knocked on my door holding pancakes. She was smiling. That fake smile. Thought I'd make breakfast, she chirped. Still my birthday, girl. I stared at the syrup dripping down the plate. I wanted to scream, to throw it at the wall, to tell her I knew everything. But I didn't, because I wasn't ready. Instead, I smiled back, tilted my head. Thanks, Mom. She beamed. You okay? You've been quiet lately. I'm just overwhelmed, I said softly. 18's a lot. She laughed. Oh, I know. Wait till 21. I kept staring at her, wondering how she could look me in the eye and lie so effortlessly. Wondering if this was a skill or just practice. That week, I followed her again. This time, she didn't go to work, even though she said she was pulling a double shift. She went straight to Ria's house. This time, I got out of the bus 2 blocks early, slipped into a hoodie, and watched from the edge of the park across the street. She brought flowers. They hugged. Again. Only this time, when they hugged, I saw something that made my heart crawl out of my chest. Ria was wearing my necklace. The one I was gifted on my birthday. The one I wore for 2 days, before it mysteriously went missing. And there it was, hanging from her neck now, shining under the morning sun, as if it had always belonged there. And maybe it had. I took a picture. I stood there, trembling with rage, holding my phone up like a shield between myself and the truth. That was the moment I stopped being afraid of the truth. That was the moment I decided to burn everything down. I waited 2 more days before I confronted her. Not in anger. Not with tears. I did it over tea. Because if she wanted to live in lies, I wanted to drown her in silence. She sat across from me, sipping her cup like everything was fine. She was scrolling on her phone, smiling now and then, probably texting her. I cleared my throat. Mom, I said softly. Who's Ria? The change in her face was instant. Her fingers froze. Her lips parted slightly. Her eyes, which had once sparkled with deceit, turned hollow. She blinked. Twice. What? Ria, I repeated. You talk to her every day. You visit her every week. You bought her the necklace, the birthday cake, the flowers. I leaned forward. You gave her my life. Her face turned pale. I don't. How do you? I know everything. I placed a photo on the table. The one of them hugging. Then another. The necklace around Ria's neck. Then another. A screenshot of her unsent email. Her lips quivered. I can explain. No, I interrupted. You can't. She tried to reach for the photos. I pulled them back. You lied to me. My whole life. You told me I was your everything. But I was your consolation prize. The one you kept to stay decent. The one you raised to ease your guilt. Tears welled in her eyes. It wasn't like that. You chose her, I hissed, and you let me live in the wreckage. She reached across the table. I stood up. I'm done pretending, I said coldly. She stood too. She's your sister. I paused. What? She looked down. You were twins. I was a mess when you were born. Young. Poor. Broken. I couldn't raise two, or her father took her. I kept you. My knees went weak. But I stayed in touch with him. With her. I wanted to keep both. I just couldn't. Not in the same house. Not in the same life. She looked up. I loved you both. No, I whispered. You hid me. She sobbed. I was trying to protect you. From the shame. From the pain. I stepped back. No, you were protecting yourself. And then I turned away. Because now I didn't just feel betrayed. I felt erased. I didn't go back that night. I didn't even cry. I walked through the city until the sun started to rise, a numb shadow moving on autopilot. There were no tears left in me, just silence. And underneath that silence, a storm was brewing. I sat on a park bench for hours, replaying every moment of my childhood. Every skip recital. Every burnout birthday. Every night I waited for her to come home only to hear her door shut and the lock click as if to keep me out of her life. Now I knew why. She was never mine to begin with. I was just the remainder of a choice she regretted. And still, I had tried to be enough. I had tried to be good, obedient, quiet, everything she needed me to be so she would love me back. But now I didn't want her love. I wanted her to feel empty. The same way I had for 18 years. I went back the next day. Not home, to her room. She was out, probably with Rhea again. I didn't care. Her laptop was on the desk, password protected. I broke it in under 15 minutes. She never changed it from my birthday, 0826. Inside, I found everything. Photos of Rhea's graduation. Receipts from hotels and plane tickets for weekend getaways. A folder marked College Fund Rhea with spreadsheets, bank statements, projections. She had been saving for her. All those years I thought we were broke. All those nights she said we couldn't afford my books, my clothes, my life. She was just saving, but not for me. There were emails too. Messages with titles like "So proud of you," "My brilliant girl," "Can't wait to see you again." Every word was a knife. The final twist? A letter, half written, addressed to Rhea. Once she turns 18, it's time we stop hiding. I know it's cruel, but I always believed she would find her place without me. I just didn't think she'd see me like a stranger. Find her place without me. As if I was supposed to grow up motherless in a house where she still lived. As if her guilt was enough parenting. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud in that empty room because the absurdity of it all was breathtaking. She thought I'd move on. She thought I'd accept the scraps. She thought I'd be grateful for her leftover love. She thought wrong. I spent the next week preparing. I didn't lash out. I didn't scream or break things. I did something far more terrifying. I went silent. At home I was calm. Polite. I cooked dinner once. I asked her how work was. I even smiled. She relaxed. Because that's what people like her do. They believe they're forgiven the moment the anger goes quiet. She didn't know I was just rearranging my pieces. She didn't know I was about to make her feel everything she made me swallow for years. But I didn't want petty revenge. I wanted to pull her world apart the way she pulled mine apart, with a gentle hand and a quiet smile. Because cold revenge isn't loud. It's surgical. And I was ready to cut. One day, she left her phone charging in the kitchen. She was in the shower. I took it. I texted Rhea. Hey baby, can't meet this weekend. Let's talk next week about the college fund updates. I'm thinking of involving her a bit now. Might be good for all of us. A small seed. Just enough to make Rhea curious. Unsettled. Then I deleted the text. She never saw it. That same night, while she was asleep, I copied every file from her laptop onto a drive. Then I printed the emails. All of them. And the college fund sheets. And the hotel bills. I slipped them into a folder. Then I mailed it. To Ria. No letter. No note. Just the truth. Unfiltered. Unexplained. She would read it all and draw her own conclusions. She would see that her perfect mom had lied to her too. Because that was the thing about women like my mother. They couldn't lie to just one person. They had to lie to everyone, eventually. I didn't stop there. I used her name to log into a university portal. She'd been handling some of Ria's applications through her own email. I changed the mailing address on one of the acceptance letters. Then I sent a withdrawal confirmation. It was irreversible. Ria would lose her spot. One she didn't even know she had yet. A minor setback? Maybe. But just enough chaos. Just enough imbalance. Just enough to make them both bleed a little. The final piece of my plan? I filed for a name change. Legally. I went down to the courthouse, filled out the forms, and dropped her last name from mine. She wouldn't know it yet. But in a few weeks, when her mail started coming back stamped with a different surname, not her own, she'd feel it. That slow burn. That empty echo where her name used to belong in my life. She found out about the college spot 2 weeks later. She came home crying. Ria wasn't answering her calls. The email chain had been forwarded back to her with a single line typed by Ria. I thought you were my mother. I didn't realize you had another life. She collapsed on the kitchen floor. I stood there, watching her sob like a child. She looked up at me. Tears, desperation, the cracks she had buried for so long now flooding through her mascara. She thinks I used her, she whispered. She thinks I lied. I said nothing. She reached for me. Please. Tell her I didn't mean to hurt you. Tell her you're okay. I stared into her eyes and finally saw her for what she was. Not a mother. Not a monster. Just a woman who made a choice. And now, she was finally facing it. I'm not okay, I said calmly. But I will be. And that's not your story to fix anymore. She broke. Her hands shook as she tried to hold herself together. I turned and walked out. Not with rage. Not with triumph. Just peace. Cold, clean peace. Because I didn't want her destroyed. I wanted her aware. I wanted her to live the rest of her life knowing the daughter she abandoned had learned how to survive. Without needing to forgive her. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I disagree. It's not about the temperature. It's about the precision. The patience. The pleasure of watching someone drown in the same silence they once buried you in. My mother thought the worst was over after Ria stopped speaking to her. She thought time would heal it. That eventually, one daughter would forgive, and the other would forget. She underestimated me. Because I wasn't just taking back what was mine anymore. I was going to take everything she built on lies. I started with her job. She worked as a receptionist at a small private clinic, a place where familiarity mattered more than qualifications. Everyone knew her as the warm, reliable woman who brought cookies on Fridays and always remembered birthdays. I created an anonymous email account. From it, I sent a compilation of her personal emails, the ones she wrote to Ria while calling in sick, the ones where she admitted to manipulating me to keep things quiet. Attached were screenshots of her falsified records. She'd sometimes log fake hours to get time off for her secret visits. I didn't stop there. I made sure to mention the college funds, how she had been funneling money from her joint savings account with the clinic's owner to help her daughter. The clinic fired her within 48 hours. She came home that night, pale and shaking. They're accusing me of fraud, she whispered. Can you believe that? I didn't answer. I just handed her a glass of water and walked away. Because I wasn't finished. Next was her reputation. She volunteered at the local community center, reading to kids, helping with events. It made her feel good. Made her feel like she was more than her secrets. So I turned those secrets into whispers. I printed copies of the letters she'd sent to Ria, the ones where she said she never loved the child she kept the same way. The ones where she called me, a constant reminder of a mistake. I left them, anonymously, in the mailbox of the center's director. She wasn't formally removed. But people started to look at her differently. The invitations dried up. The smiles turned cold. She began spending her days locked in her room, curtains drawn, the light gone from her face. Exactly the way I spent most of my childhood. Then came the final act. The inheritance. What she didn't know was that my biological father, the man who left before I could speak his name, had been trying to contact her for years. I discovered a folder in her email. Unanswered, Joel. He wasn't dead. He was sober now, married, and wealthy. He had wanted to reach out, to meet me, but she never let him. She'd been keeping me hidden not just from Ria, but from him. I wrote to him, not as his daughter, but as a quiet voice who had been robbed of the chance to know him. I didn't tell him everything, just enough. Just enough to make him curious. He replied within 2 days. He wanted to meet. We did, in a coffee shop downtown. He was older, slower, but his eyes held regret like bricks in his chest. I didn't know, he said, voice cracking. I didn't know she kept you. I thought. She gave you both away. We talked for hours. He asked if he could be part of my life. I didn't answer then. But I did ask one thing. If you ever planned on leaving something behind, don't leave it in her name. 3 weeks later, I saw her reading a letter from his lawyer. She crumpled it in shaking hands and screamed into her fists. The inheritance had been redirected. To me. Only me. She fell to her knees. I did everything for you, she cried. No, I said. You did everything for her. And then you tried to erase me. She looked up, tears streaking her face. You were my daughter. I shook my head. No, I whispered. I was your secret. Your shame. Your collateral damage. She reached out, maybe for comfort, maybe for redemption. I didn't flinch. I survived you, I said. That's enough. Then I turned and walked out. I moved out a week later. Left her in that house filled with broken frames and unopened mail. She still called sometimes. Voicemails I never returned. Once she came to my door, disheveled, thinner, wild-eyed. She asked for forgiveness. I closed the door. Because I didn't need revenge anymore. I'd already taken it. Not with violence. Not with rage. But with control. With truth. With the terrifying calm of a girl who had spent her life begging to be seen, and now stood so tall, she could look her mother in the eye. And feel nothing. It had been months since I last saw her. The calls had stopped. The messages too. In some distant part of me, I thought it might finally be over, that my silence had closed the door for good. But then, something arrived. A letter. No stamp, no return address. Just my name on the front, written in my mother's familiar, looping script. For a moment, I just stared at it. I should have thrown it away. I'd won. I had nothing left to read, nothing left to hear. But I opened it anyway. Inside was a single page, folded with surgical precision, and 3 words printed at the top stopped my breath cold. She was yours. I read it once. Then twice. Then I sat down, hard. The letter continued. I never wanted you to know this. But the truth is, I didn't keep you and give Ria away. I gave both of you away. You were adopted by someone else first. But something happened. Your first family, they gave you back. When the agency called, I was the only one who would take you. Ria's father refused. I brought you home. Not because I chose you, but because no one else would. Ria stayed with her original parents. She never knew you existed. But you? You were mine in a way she never was. You were the one I raised. The one who grew beside me. The one who saw me break and rebuild 100 times. I know I failed. I know I lied. But please, Know that the reason I hid you wasn't because I didn't want you seen. It's because the moment you walked back through my door as a baby, you were already broken, and I didn't want the world to blame me for it. There was a pause in the letter, like she'd hesitated before writing the final line. You weren't abandoned by me. You were abandoned by everyone. I was just the last one who let you down. I sat there for hours after reading that. I didn't know what to feel. Hurt? Rage? Grief? No, it was something else. Confusion. Because if she was telling the truth, then everything I built my revenge on was only half the story. I wasn't the daughter she failed. I was the daughter the world rejected. And she was just one more link in a long chain of people who had passed me along. I closed my eyes. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe my entire identity had been a question mark from the very beginning. I requested my birth records. It took weeks. Red tape. Delays. But when they finally arrived, the truth spilled out in black and white. I had been placed in another home at age 2. And I had been returned to the agency after only 6 months. The reasons? Disruptive behavior. Difficulty bonding. Unresolved trauma. I was 2 years old, and already deemed too broken to love. The realization hit me like a freight train. My entire life, I thought I was abandoned once. Now I knew it happened twice. Ria had never been my competition. She had been the one who never left. The one who never had to come back. And I had been the mistake that kept repeating. The daughter no one could fully keep, and no one could fully let go. I sat in my new apartment for days. I stared at the ceiling. I read the letter again. And slowly, something inside me cracked open. I realized I had spent my entire life chasing validation from someone who had no business defining my worth in the first place. Not my mother. Not Ria. Not the parents who gave me back. Not even the father who now wanted to claim me because it was convenient. They were not the proof of who I was. Their rejection wasn't the story. My survival was. So I did the hardest thing of all. I wrote a letter back. Not to forgive her, but to release her. You were right. I wasn't abandoned by just you. But you were the one who had the chance to change that. And you chose silence. Still, I am done living in reaction to you. My life is no longer about proving anything. Not to you, not to them, not even to myself. You taught me how to live without love. And that means you also taught me how to build it. On my own terms. I never send it. I didn't need to. Some truths are meant to be said aloud once, and then buried with dignity. Weeks passed. Ria never reached out. My mother disappeared from town. Word was, she moved in with a distant aunt across the state. Rumors said she started drinking again. Others said she found God. I stopped caring. Because for the first time, I wasn't watching her story anymore. I was writing mine. I changed my name completely. Not just the last one. All of it. Full rebirth. I got a small apartment. I enrolled in night school. I got a job at a bookstore and started volunteering at a shelter once a week, not to fix others, but to remind myself I wasn't unfixable. I began piecing myself together with hands that once only knew how to break. And one day, someone at the shelter asked my name. I gave them the new one, the one I chose, not the one inherited from betrayal. And for the first time in my life, I smiled without apology.